Welcome to Redacted Reality. If the allure of the shadowy, cryptic, and mystical tales captivate you, then please subscribe and hang around. Chapter 7 Whispers Over Coffee. Morning light streamed through the hotel's tall windows, casting long golden rectangles across the dark hardwood floor. The dining area maintained a certain rustic charm, with its exposed brick and wrought iron chandeliers that hung from the rough-hewn ceiling beams. Each table bore a small vase with fresh wildflowers, splashes of purple and yellow against crisp white tablecloths. Sarah claimed a corner booth, positioning herself to face the entrance. Old habits. The leather upholstery creaked beneath her as she shifted, spreading her notes across the polished table surface. Marcus murmured after his first sip. Might actually be waking up for. He cradled the steaming mug between his palms like something precious. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, evidence of another restless night. Lily nodded in agreement, adding a splash of cream to her own cup. Local roast. The waitress said they got it from some artisanal place in Philly. She glanced towards the entrance. No sign of the others? Probably sleeping off whatever they were drinking last night, Sarah said. Checking her phone for messages. Nothing. Jill mentioned something about a local bar when I passed him in the hallway. A server arrived with their breakfast. Fluffy scrambled eggs and thick-cut bacon for Marcus, an omelet bursting with vegetables for Lily, and steel-cut oats topped with berries and honey for Sarah. Steam rose from the plates, carrying the comforting scent of a proper meal. Should we wait? Lily asked, hesitating with her fork poised. Marcus was already 3 bites into his bacon. If we waited for Sam to wake up voluntarily before noon, we'd all starve to death. Sarah smiled despite herself. Eat. We've got work to do. They fell into a comfortable rhythm of eating and exchanging information. Sarah spread out her newspaper clippings and printouts from the library archives, while Lily opened her laptop to display scanned pages from Judge Whittaker's journals. So Whittaker was using corrupted Masonic rituals? Marcus summarized between bites. To summon something. Not just something, Lily corrected, turning her laptop to display a page of disturbing symbols. Look at these. They're consistent with summoning rituals for entities that exist outside our reality. Ancient things that feed on human suffering. Sarah nodded grimly, and Beatrice Langley's coven was helping him, whether they fully understood what they were doing or not. Well, until Peter Langley witnessed one of their rituals, Marcus added, pushing his empty plate aside. Then he vanished, likely killed, and Harold Greaves ended up with his notebook, which then disappeared when Harold vanished too, Sarah concluded. Pattern keeps repeating. People get too close to the truth, they disappear. The restaurant had filled around them, the gentle clatter of silverware and murmured conversations creating a bubble of normalcy that felt increasingly distant with the grim discussion. Lily refilled her coffee cup from the carafe the server had left. What I don't understand is why the entity seems bound to the house. If it's as powerful as these accounts suggest, why hasn't it spread further? Maybe it can't, Sarah mused. Maybe the ritual tied it to that location. Marcus leaned forward, lowering his voice. Or maybe it's waiting for something, building strength. A chill passed between them, despite the warm coffee and sunlight. We need to get back to the house, Sarah said finally. We need to find whatever's in that basement. Agreed, Lily nodded. But first, let's make sure we're prepared. No rushing in this time. Marcus glanced at his watch. Should we try calling the others again? It's getting late, even for Sam. Sarah hesitated, an uneasy feeling settling in her stomach. Let's finish our coffee first, then we'll go check their rooms. Marcus broke off a piece of chocolate mended, savoring the way the dark chocolate melted against his tongue, mingling with the crunch of candied orange peel and toasted almonds. God, these are dangerous, he murmured, reaching for another from the artfully arranged plate at the center of their table. The owner said they're made by some famous chocolatier who moved here from Dusseldorf, Lily explained, delicately brushing a chocolate flake from her finger. Apparently, she only sells to a few local businesses. Sarah nodded appreciatively and took another sip of her coffee. The perfect pairing. She gestured towards Marcus's notes. So, what did you find out from the locals? Marcus leaned back, cradling his refreshed coffee mug. Not nearly as much as I'd hoped. It's like trying to get blood from a stone around here. He flipped open his notebook. Everyone knows about the Whittaker house. They all get the same look when you mention it, like you've just reminded them of something they've been trying very hard to forget. Fear? Sarah asked. More than that, Marcus frowned. It's almost like shame, like the town collectively knows something terrible happened there, but nobody wants to take responsibility for letting it continue. Lily broke her chocolate in half, revealing the pistachio center. That tracks with what I found in the archives. The town elders must have known something was happening with Whittaker's coven, but they all turned a blind eye. Exactly, Marcus nodded. I've talked to at least 15 people at the tavern. Most would only speak in vague terms. Bad place, evil ground, that sort of thing. When I pushed for specifics, they'd suddenly remember urgent appointments elsewhere. Sarah's expression darkened. They're protecting themselves. From what, though? Lily asked. The entity, or their own complicity? Both, maybe. Marcus took another chocolate, this one studded with crystallized ginger. Tom, the bartender, was most forthcoming. After I told him about Miranda, he seemed to open up a bit. Said there had been disappearances connected to that house going back generations. The sunlight dimmed momentarily as clouds passed overhead, casting their restaurant in shadow. The sudden darkness felt appropriate to their conversation. What about Elmer and Margaret? Sarah asked, referring to the names in Marcus's notes. Elmer's brother went missing in '96. Police ruled it a runaway case, but Elmer swears his brother mentioned seeing strange lights at the Whittaker house the night before he vanished. Marcus flipped the page in his notebook. And Margaret Holloway. She's in her 80s now. She told me the house calls to certain people. Said her cousin was one of them back in the 60s. The girl became obsessed with the place, started sleepwalking toward it at night. Well, what happened to her? Lily asked, her coffee forgotten. Her family sent her to live with relatives in Ohio. Margaret says it saved her life. Sarah's fingers drummed against the table. Did anyone mention the basement specifically? Marcus shook his head. That's the strange part. When I brought up the basement or the tunnels, they just shut down. Complete conversational brick wall. He popped the last chocolate into his mouth. It's like there's an unspoken agreement not to discuss certain aspects of the house. Or they genuinely don't know, Lily suggested. The basement contained Whittaker's most secret rituals. That we might be the first people in generations to discover what's really down there, Sarah finished, her voice quiet but determined. The three exchanged glances, the excellent coffee and chocolate suddenly tasting slightly bitter with the weight of what lay ahead. Seriously, try one of the dark chocolates with the pistachios, Marcus urged, pushing the plates of chocolates toward Sarah. A delicate chocolate disc gleamed in the morning, each topped with different combinations of nuts, dried fruits, and crystallized ginger. The owner said they're made by some local chocolatier who only sells through a few places in town. Sarah selected the one with sea salt and almond slivers, closing her eyes as it melted on her tongue. The chocolate was rich and complex, with bitter notes balancing the sweetness just so perfectly. I might need to buy a box before we leave, Lily said, reaching for another. These are ridiculous. Marcus nodded in agreement. Then his expression shifted as he pulled a small notebook from his jacket. So, about the locals. He flipped through several pages of hastily scrawled notes. I spent most of yesterday talking to people around town. Hit the hardware store, post office, a couple of diners. And? Sarah prompted, refilling her coffee cup. And it was like pulling teeth. Marcus leaned forward, lowering his voice despite the ambient chatter around them. Everybody knows about the Whittaker house. Everyone has a story. Cousin's friend went missing there, neighborhood dog never came back, weird lights in the windows. But the moment I pressed for details, they all clammed up. Lily frowned. Fear? More than that, Marcus tapped his notebook. It's like collective denial. They acknowledge the house is bad news, but they have all agreed not to examine why too closely. Protection mechanism, Sarah murmured. They don't talk about it, they don't have to face it. Marcus nodded. Exactly. But I did get something useful from Tom at the Black Powder Tavern. A guy named Elmer. Tom mentioned that the disappearances go back generations. Not just occasional missing hikers, but consistent patterns. He flipped to another page in his notebook. Elmer's brother vanished in '92, went to the house on a dare, never came back. Police searched for 3 days, found nothing. Not even footprints leaving the property. Did anyone actually see him enter? Lily asked, reaching for another chocolate topped with candied orange peel. That's the thing. Yes. 2 friends waited at the edge of the property, swore they saw him walking up to the porch, then nothing. No screams, no sign of struggle. Sarah nodded, processing. What about the woman you mentioned? Margaret. Margaret Holloway, Marcus grimaced. Local history teacher, retired. She was the most direct. Said the house isn't just haunted, it's hungry. Said it's been feeding for over a century. A heavy silence fell over the table, the cheerful breakfast ambiance suddenly feeling like a thin veneer over something darker. She also said something that stuck with me, Marcus continued, his voice dropping even lower. That whatever is in there doesn't just take bodies, it takes souls, keeps them, somehow. Lily shivered visibly, setting down her half-eaten chocolate. Like a collection? Or battery, Sarah suggested, her mind racing. If it feeds on suffering, what better way to keep a constant supply than to keep its victims conscious somehow? Marcus nodded grimly. That's the impression I got. And here's the kicker. Margaret seems to think the entity is getting stronger. Disappearances are becoming more frequent. Which means we're running out of time, Sarah concluded, gathering her notes with renewed urgency. We need to find Joe, Sam, and Ellie, now. The sweetness of the chocolate lingered on their tongues, now a jarring counterpoint to the horror they were piecing together.